Welcome to the final video of how I invest today. Now in the first episode, we focused purely on how I invested at 20. Second episode, how I structure my investments today. The last episode, what am I actually investing in today? Now, the focus of this episode is going to be on actual exchange traded products and index funds. The thing you need to be aware of is nothing in the video that I'm talking about is advice. There are so many different ways to invest, whether you use one product provider or another, or one ETF provider or another. I'm just telling you how I'm doing it, so it's not advice. The first ETF that I use at the moment in the trust is A200. That is going to give me broad, low-cost exposure to the Australian market, okay? It's exposure to the largest 200 companies in Australia. It is the most cost-efficient exposure to the ASX in terms of index funds that I can find today. The index fund has done pretty well. It tracks the Australian market, so it really is a reflection of the Australian economy, but has returned 8.49% as at this morning since inception in May of 2018, which obviously includes COVID as well. The next investment that I invest in is the Vanguard All World ex-US ETF, or VEU. So it's the entire world excluding the US, and I'll explain why I've done that in a moment. Extremely cost-efficient exposure to the entire world, but we've carved out the US, which is such a huge portion of the global market. Now, this investment's returned 9.98% over the last 5 years, but it provides us with that global diversification. The next thing that I invest in is VTS. Now, that is the exposure to the US, okay? It's the US total market ETF. It's not the S&P 500. It gives me more access to smaller companies as well. Now, with VTS, the return on that in the last 5 years is 13.15%. Why do I invest in VEU and VTS instead of using a VGS, which is the entire world international market mixed in one? Well, the main reason is VGS is more expensive than splitting it up into two ETFs. It also, by splitting it up, gives me more control around what I allocate to the US versus the rest of the world. Now, for the last investment in the trust, these are actually speculative investments. So we actually have crypto. We allocate up to 5% of our portfolio to crypto. Now, with that, I'm not throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. I'm talking big crypto like Bitcoin exposure. Now, that is a very small play, as I said. The maximum that it would ever reach in terms of our total trust portfolio is 5%. And then in terms of our total net worth and other assets that we have as well, it would be less than 1%. So I'm not worried about that exposure there, but I do think it's fun to have, and it does increase diversification. So there you have it. That's how I'm investing today. As I said, there's plenty of different things you could do. You could use beta shares ETFs, you could use Vanguard ETFs, you could use some other providers ETFs, you could use old school index funds, or you could stock pick, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. Feel free to comment below what you're actually investing in terms of ETF. Are you using a pre-mixed ETF that is one size fits all, like a VDAL or a VDHG or a DHHF by beta shares? Or do you like to split the portfolio up with a number of different ETFs to give you a bit more control?